Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2021 horror film No Fear. A film that is co-written and directed by Jameson M. Locascio, and it stars Amy Carlson, Mallory Betchell, David Allen Bash, Mia Davis and Jack DeFalco. Now this film focuses on a family that move into a house and after the possession of the mother by an entity or demonic presence, the family then have to deal with a whole barrage of supernatural activities. One of the family members is like a ghost hunter type of thing. She understands this sort of thing, and they end up basically by the end having to go through some ritual in order to try and communicate effectively with this demonic entity in order to get their family to get out of this in one piece. Right, I mean essentially that's a long-winded way of saying this is a haunted house film basically, and it's a low budget haunted house film. Now there are times when the low budget of this film springs off the screen at you. Sometimes the sound design's a bit off, it sounds a bit cheap and tinny occasionally. Sometimes some of the performances you know don't draw you in well enough, and they're a little bit below par, and then there are other times when it's actually quite an engaging and at times quite frightening film. I think for me the biggest issue with this film was at times the pacing. It felt like not enough was happening in the film, and I'm sure a lot of that was down to budgetary reasons. There was a lot of suggestion, sounds, all that kind of stuff, and very little else. There's not a lot really happens other than a lot of, you know, people walking around darkened rooms going, hello, is anybody there, type of thing. It's one of those type of horror films, haunted house horror films, that unfortunately we've kind of all seen done many times before, and I think regardless of what budget you put on the screen, you're gonna have to try and make yourself stand out a bit, and I think that's the biggest problem with this film, is it doesn't do enough to stand out a bit. Saying that, there are some quite effective and shocking scenes in the film that will make you gasp a little bit. Some good sound effects, you know, when you get like stabbing scenes, you get the right kind of sound effect that goes with that. And quite a lot of times when I watch low budget films, the sound effect doesn't match the action that you're watching on the screen, and I think the sound effects here do a good job to keep you immersed in what you're watching. They were just this, I know I said girl, she's not a girl, she was a young woman. I think she was called Jamie, was like this paranormal expert. I'm reluctant to call her an expert, but that's kind of the impression you got in the film. She didn't seem experienced enough to me to know all these things, and if she felt like all these things were happening that was happening in the film, she would have probably sought out some more expert help, sort of thing. And it all felt too enclosed, if you like. It all just felt like it was this one family and a couple of extensions of that family that popped up now and again in scenes and got involved in the film. I didn't necessarily buy at all times the family dynamic. At times I wondered who people were, if that makes sense, because I don't think they were properly introduced as characters, and probably weren't given enough to do to make you interested in their character. So there was a couple of times when I had to rejig my memory as to, right, who is this person, what's their role in this film. So it all felt like pretty much everything just happened in this one house. From memory, I'm not even sure there was much happened beyond the house. I could be wrong there, and that again, that's a weakness with the film. It didn't draw me in enough to hold my attention, to be completely 100% on, you know, what else happened outside the house. Not a lot, other than things in the garden, stuff like that. But it was constructed well in a sense of it had a solid start to the film that you could understand, a solid midsection of the film that you could understand, and a solid end to the film that, while you would quite easily say was very, very predictable, you could understand. Now that might sound a ridiculous thing to say, but again, I watch a lot of low budget films on this channel and review a lot of low budget films, and many of them overcomplicate things or over confuse the matters, and this film doesn't do that in that sense. The story is nice and easy to follow, it's a narrative you can understand, and there are some horror tropes in here that you can relate to, you know, the taps and bangs and moans and the possession of family members and you know, self-harming and all this kind of stuff. It's all stuff we've seen before in these type of horror narratives. So ultimately, would I recommend this film? Well, I'll be honest, I've seen worse films in this genre, I'm not going to lie. Yes, it did feel cheap at times. Yes, it did break the immersion due to the budget at times and some of the performances. But to complement the film, I thought the payoff at the end was what I wanted, I suppose. It might not be what you would want by watching it, but I thought the payoff that we get at the end in regards to this long-winded communication, if you like, or attempt to communicate with this demonic entity in the house, I thought the payoff was kind of worth it, and there were some surprisingly decent effects as well by the end. So I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. I think it's an average film, but it does try its very, very best to give, with its budget, the best haunted house film it can give, really. So I'm going to give it 5 out of 10. Worth checking out if it's your sort of horror film. That is my review for No Fear. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching, everybody, and of course I will be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.